All right, here we are, King of the Hammers 2020. Out here at Lasertown, the Talent Tank, we've got Dawson Allington.
Hi, Wyatt. How's it going? Thanks
Dawson,
for having me on.
Man, Dawson, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I'm excited.
When I first started out with this podcast, I was brainstorming with a few people, and multiple people came back and told me that you were a name that I needed to get on, and I didn't know who you were. Mm-hmm. And as I started following your story and learning a little bit about you, I was like, yeah, absolutely. And finally, the opportunity presented itself. We're at the same place. Mm-hmm. We're at King of the Hammers 2020. Yeah. We're able to flange up, get you down to Cody Wagner's place down here, Lasertown.
Yeah, this place is awesome.
It is. It really is. The wind is actually starting to pick up a little bit here. We are on the eve of apparently a pretty nasty storm.
Not excited about it. I wish this would have waited maybe another day until the wind could pick up and blow the dust off the course for Wednesday, but, you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. They're talking about 75-mile-an-hour winds. So by the time this airs, people look back and be like, either the forecasters were right or they were so wrong. I hope they're violently wrong.
Yes, I agree.
So Dawson, how old are you?
I am 24.
24, yep. And you hail out of Utah, like somewhere around Salt Lake City.
Yep. Yeah, it's the suburbs of Salt Lake, West Jordan.
Okay,
just
I have heard of that. Yep. All right. And when did you get into off-road, and how did you get into it?
So I've kind of always been in off-road. My dad, when I was growing up, let me go back further. When my dad met my mom, he was actually racing quads. Okay. And he was going to our local sand dunes a lot, and then bought my mom a quad and said, this is a story I heard at least, that he told her, if this is going to work, you're going to have to enjoy this type of lifestyle. And so she got into the quads and rode a lot, and then they ended up, they had kids, so they had to sell them and whatnot. And then he got into sandrails, and I would always be in the right seat in the sandrail with him, no matter what we were doing. I mean, we call it the face down. It's called Little Sahara OHB area or something like that, and it's a really steep hill. Like Banshees, Yamaha Banshees have a hard time getting up it sometimes, and he would stand it on the back wheels the entire way up and
just wheelie up the face.
Yeah, it was awesome. So much fun.
And you're just screaming with happiness.
Just ear to ear smiles, man.
No, that is amazing.
So
that's awesome.
Kind of where my off-road excitement started, and then we got out of it because it wasn't really family oriented. It was only 2 seats in the sandrail, so we were away from the rest of the family, and they had to stay back at camp, whatnot. So he sold that and got a boat, and we started boating because he boated as a kid and wanted us to experience that.
Seems like a good trade-off, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was super enjoyable. I love the water. I swam in high school, so I mean, if that doesn't tell you how much I love water, I was pretty decent at swimming, but life got in the way. And then
graduation. What sports did you play?
I swam.
You swam. Yep. You're a swimmer.
Yep. I didn't play ball or anything. No contact sports. I tried little league baseball when I was just a youngster. I wasn't good at team sports. So swimming was kind of my older sister got me into it. She started swimming, and then was like, well, you'll probably enjoy this. And so I started, and I did enjoy it, and I was fairly good at it. So
now that you say that, looking at you, like your shape, your skeletal structure looks like you would probably be a very good swimmer.
Yep.
What year did you graduate high school?
14.
14. So you're barely out. Just a baby. So when did you get into wheeling, and how did you get into wheeling?
So
in Jeeps and all that.
Through high school, I worked at an automotive repair shop in Sandy, which is just like southeast of where I live, and we were friends with the owner of the shop, and so he was able to get me in after school and whatnot, helping around the shop, sweeping, and I slowly got into doing more and more. I had to do brake jobs, oil change, to the point where I was rebuilding motors, transmissions, doing everything that a car has on it, I was working on when I left after 3 years. And he actually had the Jeep I have sitting in the garage that I was building to race 4600. He had it for sale, and I put the lift on it when he owned it. And then he had it for sale after we got back from a Moab trip. and my dad let me drive his Ford Explorer, and I loved it. And so I'm like, I got to get myself one of these because my dad won't let me drive enough.
Right.
And so I went back and I talked to him. I said, what can I do to buy that from you? And he actually helped me out huge. He let me do a personal loan with him, or a private loan, however you want to say that, and charged me interest and everything. So it was,
so you had to work it off.
Yeah, it was absolutely a real loan. And I spent the next 2 years paying it off, and yeah,
I like
how I got into
stories
so.
like that. Like Casey Gilbert. Casey Gilbert bought a aluminum CJ tub from a guy named Mike Coville at the point where he didn't have any money for it, so he wrote Mike checks for Mike to cash every 2 weeks for Casey to finally pay it off. And it's cool to hear those stories like that. There's still these good people in the world that are willing to go out on a limb for a young kid, a young man, a young guy that they see something in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still to this day. I mean, we don't speak anymore. Kind of have sour feelings towards the relationship, but I'm super grateful that he was willing to do that for me. But I think he had his own agenda with doing it. But it's whatever now. I've moved past it.
Those are things you can really only control, like what's in your control. And you can't always control other people's emotions. And you'll find people are going to be people. They're crazy.
Yeah.
They're weird. They do things that, they may have a reason for at the time, but then tomorrow they get a different piece of information and realize, I did that wrong.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's living, and you hopefully learn from that and cherish that, and you move on from it, and you don't, work to repeat it.
Yeah, for sure.
I make mistakes every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I drove all the way out here from Houston in a pre-runner. Like, how genius is that on 40s? I mean, I could only go like 200 miles before it needing gas every time.
Yeah.
I could have flown for half that. I mean, like my plane ticket would have got me all the way here, but money-wise, it would have only got me to Phoenix, right?
Yeah, but you don't get to enjoy the smiles and the experience of driving a pre-runner all the way out here. So.
Oh yeah, it's a good story, and I get some street cred for not just having a truck that only sees pavement, which I guess it did only see pavement here. But so you race 4600.
Yep.
And you're baby Jeep racing. How does baby Jeep? Where's this name come from?
So we're out on the trail. This is the Jeep before my race car. When I bought it, it was on 31-inch BFGs and had a 2-inch lift on it. That was it. Open diffs, stock diffs.
Any light bars?
Nope, no light bars. It was essentially stock. It had a lift and tires on it is all. And my parents, I talked my parents into buying a 4-door Rubicon, because my dad had just retired and got a good retirement check. So I was spending it for him.
Right. That's a good son.
Yeah, right? Well, I'm still spending his money. So anyway, we would go out on the trail, and we'd go to Easter Jeep Safari, and we'd pay for a couple rides out there with Red Rock 4-wheelers. And they have requirements on what trails you're allowed to do with what modifications you have done with your Jeep. Well, we kind of spiffed a little bit, told a little white lie on the website that I had more than I did. We went out on the trail, and they found out I didn't have a front locker, but I had a limited slip, which
semantics.
Yeah. It's a rear locker, right?
Yeah.
And so I was always the smallest Jeep on the trail, and everybody would, you're not going to make it up that, and I'd walk right up it. And so my mom dubbed it the baby Jeep, and then hers was Mama Jeep, because hers was bigger, obviously. And
yours just scoots behind, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's where Baby Jeep Racing came from. I was actually struggling with what to call the team when I was getting in, or wanting to get into racing. And I went to my mom. I said, what should I call this? I am completely lost. And she's like, why don't you just call it Baby Jeep Racing? Because you're racing Baby Jeep. And so still to this day, we call it Baby Jeep. This is not Baby Jeep behind me. This is the race Jeep or the red Jeep. But
it sticks in your head, though. It sticks in your head. Like, it's now, if you go to a buggy, I don't know, you may have to go to like baby buggy racing. Maybe we'll have to get you you have to go through all.
I've had those thoughts. I'm like, so if I get out of the Jeep, what the hell am I going to call the race team?
I love it. And I know you have goals. I mean, I know you have goals to move on up to the next classes and ultimately run 4,400.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely didn't get in this for the short life. I mean, I'm in it for the long haul. I want to be successful. When I found out about ULTRA4 was when I was getting more involved with Jeeps and everything, and I was watching YouTube videos a lot, and just getting as much jeeping as I could when I wasn't in Moab or out in our desert crawling and stuff. And so I found out about ULTRA4 and found out about Shannon Campbell, Lauren Healy, and all the greats, you know, the Randy Slossons and all the greats in ULTRA4. And I'm like, I want to beat them someday. And so they all have targets on their back for me.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely, they should.
If I ever get the chance, I really hope I do, to race against them. I mean, I got to race against Vaughn Ginton Jr. and Lauren Healy at Crandon. Granted, that was in a stock car with over half the horsepower that they have in their cars. But, hey, I still got to tear it up on the same track at the same time with them. So I think that is so cool.
So I have exactly kind of the experience like that. I've actually raced with them a lot. But I have one specific experience with Shannon Campbell. We were in Kentucky at Sturgis, and I'm behind him, but it's where we're out on the course. It was basically just the two of us, and we were all out. And Dave and Tom Ways and JT, they didn't want people going so fast straight into the woods. It was from a field straight into woods, so they came out and added a concrete chicane. And so to go around the chicane, you bled speed to go into the woods. Well, Shannon and I, you got to a point where we were doing it pretty fast, and it was Shannon and I couldn't get around him, but we were just fighting. It was fun. It was me and Shannon. But my most vivid memory of this race is going into that chicane, and both of us coming around the chicane, both of us up on the bike, two wheels.
Oh man!
And
just cutting the corner.
And we're up, and you could hear in my video, even in my mind, I heard it, but in the video you hear it. Him upshifting and me upshifting on the bike as we shot into the trees.
Gosh.
Exactly the stuff that Dave and JT didn't want. And Tom, I mentioned Tom Ways because Tom Ways is a hell of a guy with a chainsaw, and so they had him back there clearing trees to make for the cars to fit through. And Tom was like, you can't let people shoot into that. They're going to be coming out of this field at 100. You can't let them just shoot in these trees. We're going to kill people. So, Shannon and those guys are really great competitors. I think they're certainly valiant endeavors to go after knocking them off of their stature, and they won't go lightly. They won't give up a pass.
Yep.
They will race you to the beer cooler. They will race you anywhere you want to go.
It was 2017. Shannon raced his own son to the finish line and beat him.
Oh yeah. That's the one where he tags the wall and the fire, and the tire balls go everywhere.
Yep.
That was one of the most iconic moments.
It was. Yeah. When I saw that, I was super excited because I was here. That was my first experience of King of the Hammers in person, and I was here for that. So that was pretty cool.
The funniest thing I saw come out of that was the memes of KOH carried that. There was a picture with tire balls in the air, and they made it look like from Super Mario. You know, when like you get hit with a shell.
Oh yeah.
And the coins go.
Yeah.
And they made each of the tire balls were a coin, so it looked like Shannon got hit by a turtle. I really do. I really do love those guys, and I think I fully support your effort to go knock them off, and they would fully welcome you coming to take spots from them, but they will race you. They won't give it up easy.
No, and I wouldn't expect them to. I don't want them to.
Right. So you were gonna race King of the Hammers in 2018. Was that gonna be your first King of the Hammers?
Yep. So I had just bought the Jeep behind me from VP Racing, Ben Verosa and Jacob Pacheco. They were selling it after their Reno Nationals win in 2017, and so they convinced me, and I kind of cursed them on and off throughout the year from time to time, that they convinced me to buy it. Ben's wife, Danielle Verosa, she was a huge proponent in convincing me to buy it. It was silver at the time, and I told her, I said, well, it's not red. The red's my color. And she's like, well, it can be painted. I'm like, fine. So that's when we bought it, we picked it up in Northern California, drove home, spent a day at home, and then loaded up and went to Moab to get some seat time, me and my dad, because my dad used to co-drive for me. He doesn't anymore because we're kind of changing the team dynamic and whatnot.
Well, I see your co-driver. He's actually with you today. You've got Christopher Ray.
Yep.
And yeah, he's an athlete. I mean, he's got the pedals and the two wheels, and he's fit and doing the Hammers rock trails.
Yeah.
You need a guy that's fit.
Absolutely.
A guy that can pull some winch cable. A guy that knows the Hammers.
Yeah. And that has been just the way he knows the trails. I mean, we were going up Wrecking Ball, and he says, you're coming up on 3 different options, and you're going to want to take the middle one. I'm like, all right. And he says, I'm getting out because we're winching this one. I'm like, okay. And this was during pre-running. But he said I was going to make it up it, so during the race we might not winch. But he knows the trails, and it was just amazing to me. And he's taught me a lot about driving.
Well, he's worth his weight in gold. I mean, he doesn't weigh that much. He is worth
weighs
his weight
more
in gold.
than me, so.
But you have a story that is just that we're going to dig into, but I really want to get this kind of off my chest of what my view of what a competitor looks like for KOH, or a competitor looks like in Ultra4 racing. I believe there's 3 races that happen on race day.
Okay.
I believe there's a race between the driver and the other drivers. Mm-hmm. So that's the competition between you and the field. Okay. You can't change the field. No. It's just you, right? The field's going to do what the field does. So like we were talking about somebody having an opinion or changing their minds and having motives, you can't change them. Right? Yeah. You may want to try. Yeah. Then you have the competition between you as the driver and Mother Nature and the hammer trails and the rocks and what Mother Nature did. If she's going to blow a bunch of wind or not wind and leave all the dust hanging, you've got to contend with that. Moving rocks, rainstorms move rocks, traffic moves rocks. That's Mother Nature. Yep. So it's the competition between now you and the field, and now you versus Mother Nature. So you have those two things. You can't change either of those. Yeah. There's things you cannot change. Yep. And then there's the third one. It's adversity. And it's what's going on in your head. You can change that. You can change you as a driver.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you can change that and train yourself, so you can go work out all you want and be physically fit, which your co-driver works out a lot, so he's going to be physically fit and physically trained. But mentally, you kind of need to be there. You need to be able to take what all those other things throw at you, plus what luck there is, and plus what decisions you make on the trail throw at you. And then you got some factors about parts giving up or not giving up. But what's the percent of guys that finish? Yeah. KOH, what's the percent?
I honestly can't tell you.
We'll handicap it at 20% maybe?
Sure, yeah.
So there's going to be, and funny, I had this conversation with Ryan Thomas, president of Ultra4, yesterday about this, that there's going to be 80% of the field is going to have to say, I quit on race day. It may
I've been there.
Yeah. We've all been there. I don't think it's I don't know, a badge of courage, a badge of honor. I mean, you raced King of the Hammers, and she won. Yep. I think that is what happens. But you just don't want to throw in the towel at the first thing that, oh, man, we got a flat tire. We're out. Yep. Right? Yep. I'm not going to wave the white flag. It's, we have a steering issue. We have all these things. But at some point, there are going to be guys this week during the race, they'll get to a point where they say, I'm done. This is too much. Mentally, I'm out. Yep. And then there's Dawson Allington. And you have overcome so much adversity. I think in your head that you already are of that I don't quit mentality, but I think that you're head and shoulders above the field.
Well, thank you.
Because you know what it is to not quit. You know what it is to fight, and you know what it is to fight for what you want. And here's your opportunity. And I think that, I don't know if it gets you another foot down the trail or another mile or it gets you all the way to the finish line. I don't know what that is. That's going to be for you to determine. But of those 3 pillars of what I think happens on race day, you can only affect the last one. And I think you are mentally better prepared than a lot of people. Now, why are you prepared? What happened in 2018?
So going into 2018 King of the Hammers, the day before we were leaving to come down, I got a phone call from my doctor saying that I had a brain tumor. Didn't know any more information than that. So,
and you guys are packed.
Yeah,
we're trailers loaded.
Exactly.
Food's bought. Yep. Vacation taken.
Exactly. Yeah, we're off. I mean, I had come home for the day, and I got the phone call. Come home from my last day of work, and I was leaving to go to the Hammers. I was going to bed and everything. I got the phone call for my doctor, and he told me and my mom, and then we sat the rest of my family down. Had to call my older sister because she had moved out. She was 24 at the time, and we told all of them, and tears were happened and everything because never expect to get the phone call that you have a brain tumor. I mean, where does that come from? So whatever.
What are you at this point? You're 22 years old.
24. Yep.
No. When this happened.
Oh,
22, 21.
Yeah, 22.
And you get that call, and then what was your next call? You call your mom, I assume?
She was So the doctor actually called her because I still live at home with my parents. And so the doctor called her and wanted to tell her first, but I was home. So she called and she didn't answer the first time because she was in the store with no reception. And so he left a voicemail and said, you need to call me back. And so we called back and she had him on speaker and I heard and everything. And I just, it was shocking, but I just like, wow. And she started to tear up and
crush
everything.
You guys.
Kind of. It was definitely a punch in the gut for sure. I mean, we'd come so far to race King of the Hammers, and that this has been my dream since I found out about it. So, wow. Anyway, we.
But what was your decision? So you found this out.
We told my family, and it was kind of funny. My dad was like, "So are we not going to King of the Hammers then?" I said, "No, we're going because, I mean, this is a life-threatening deal, and I'm been dreaming of this day forever, so I'm not going to miss it." And so we loaded up and came to King of the Hammers and raced.
See, that's the mindset of what a mindset of a winner looks like to me. Like the mental thing. It's not that you took adversity and you rose to the occasion and said, okay, yeah, this may be it. I'm not going to go sulk in my room.
Yeah,
let's go.
Yep. And so 2018 was the first time I had ever wheeled in King of the Hammer or in Johnson Valley.
Isn't it a magnificent place?
I had wheeled in Moab, and I've done some of the hardest trails in Moab, which, I mean, in comparison to Johnson Valley, they're nothing. I got here, and me and my dad went out pre-running, and we're like, we're in for it. We did pretty well that first year. We timed out at the last checkpoint in third place. So it was kind of, I mean, we were definitely, had our heads held high. We were happy that we had even made it that far.
Were there only two finishers?
Yes. Yep. It was the year Jesse Combs won.
Okay.
The stock class. And Chris Ray, my co-driver, actually was co-driving for her. I found that out after getting in contact with him. And I'm like, well, this is your second year, so
yeah,
let's go.
Do it.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, it was a very proud moment for me because just to come here and get to compete was a win for me. And then we timed out in third place, which was awesome. And there was nothing wrong with the Jeep. We didn't have any issues. We just got stuck in traffic. Drove the Jeep back to the camp, parked it for the night, pulled it on the trailer the next morning, went home.
And then went to face life. And well, you're here today. So what happened here? How'd that work out?
So we finished. We went and saw the neurosurgeon, and it was kind of a blessing in disguise. He happens to be a race car driver himself, and we told him what I did and that I didn't want to give it up. And he's like, all right, go race. And we had planned on racing the Western Series. And so he's like, all right, go finish your year. We'll monitor the brain tumor because it wasn't big enough that he was concerned about it. It was only 1 centimeter. And we went and raced the series in September. We were getting ready, we had just come back from Ridgecrest, and I started feeling really bad. Like I wasn't eating anything. I was getting dizzier, like out of nowhere. And that's how I found out about the brain tumor. I would get really dizzy. And I was getting dizzier out of nowhere. And so I told my mom, I said, something's wrong. We need to go back to the doctor. And so we went and we had another scan. Come to find out, it had grown a little bit. And so we were getting ready to go to nationals, and we were in the points lead, so we wanted to finish the year strong. And so we won that race and got national championship. And then on November 1st of 2018, I had brain surgery.
So nationals is what, right there in October.
Yep.
So a few weeks after that, you had surgery.
I want to say it was like a week after we had won nationals, I went in for brain surgery, and I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew about this. Over the 2018 season, I became really close with Levi Shirley, and I ended up telling him, and that was the only person in the racing community that knew. I had my mom sign into my social media on her phone, and she started posting about it, and that's when everybody found out about it. And then the timeline after the surgery is foggy to me. I think it was 3, maybe 4 weeks I was in the hospital recovering, and then we went and had another MRI and went to see the oncologist, the neuro-oncologist, and he gave me 3 to 4, maybe 5 life expectancy before this comes back, and they can't do anything about it. So that was definitely tough to hear. But I was still recovering from brain surgery, so I was like in a daze. And he told me that, and it was like a month later. I had to ask my mom. I'm like, "Did the doctor tell me I was going to die in 5 years?" And she's like, "Yeah, kind of." So it's been a tough thing to get over and come to grips with, but I'm not giving up.
No, well, there's no giving up. How did you're a big part of the racing community now. You've got a national championship under your belt.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have it from last year. You're going after it this year.
Absolutely.
What was the reaction from the racing community, from your peers?
From the other stock class, it was, very warm, and everybody was messaging me on social media. If they had my number, they were texting me, letting me know that if there's anything I need, let them know, because they'll be there. Feels
good, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Great community. So, and even people that were, not in the class, that knew me and knew about it, they were definitely warm. So it was awesome.
When you have like the power of prayer,
yeah,
and when you have a community as big as ULTRA4, and with as many racers, as many support staff, and that's a story like that spreads like wildfire.
Oh yeah.
And I regretfully I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it until somebody told me I needed to talk to you, and I started looking you up. I'm like, yeah, let's see what this guy's made of, and I really like your mindset. I like what's going on in your head. I like your ability to overcome adversity, that you've already checked into that space that says I don't quit, and you know what it takes to get there. I know that's a hard place to get to. Some people never get there, and they give up too early, and some they should have quit earlier on some stuff, and they don't know, like Goonies never die, right?
And honestly, I ask myself that quite often. I'm like, am I just doing this for nothing at this? I don't know. Should I be changing direction and going and doing other things? But I've wanted this for so long, and I don't know, to be able to put that helmet on and slam that visor shut and just put the pedal to the floor, no better feeling.
It feels good, huh?
Oh yeah.
Well, we talked about a little bit about, like racing and cost, and, I guess being rich or whatever. And I look at it as you adjusting your view of what that is. And I think it's memories. I think it's, if, even someone who has a lot more years of age on you, if they went tomorrow, were their memories valuable, mm-hmm. or were they not? And looking at you, man, you're absolutely killing it in the memory department. You're kicking ass and taking names out here. Like I said, you were national champ already once, and that was your rookie year, right?
Yeah. That was my first year racing ever. I had never raced anything, done anything competitive other than swim. So that was definitely, exciting to have happen. I never expected it, for sure.
Well, I think that's awesome. So where are you at in the process now?
So I get I go back in for MRI checkups and they keep on extending it, but it's about, on average, it's been 3 to 4 months. So I have one coming up in March that, fingers crossed, prayers out there that it's clear. My last one was a brain and spine, because where the tumor was located, the cancer cells could have went into my spine. And so that was one of the things that sucked about finding out about this. I had to have a spinal tap, and it's kind of a funny story, actually.
And it's not the band.
No, it's not the band. So they actually go into your spinal cord with a needle, and it sends a shock to your left foot. Well, at least it did my left foot. It hurts like hell. It's the worst thing to ever have happen.
Now, you mentioned to me something about the left side of your body and not being able to, that you can't co-drive and get in. Is that right? Is that part of that, or?
So that was from the brain surgery.
And when was your brain surgery? I should have asked that already.
It was November 1st of 2018, and I went through a lot of rehab to try to get my left hand working again. My left eye didn't work coming out of surgery. It's somewhat back. If I look to my left, I get double vision. But yeah, I stumble and I have balance issues. I can't hold a wrench with my left hand, which sucks big time because I work on my car. But the spinal tap was just to check to see if there's any cancer cells in my spine. And they go in, I mean, it was just a little tiny needle going to your spinal cord, but they numb it, around the skin, so you don't feel the needle going in, but you feel it in your spine, which sucks. And
my toes are curdling up right now.
I could imagine. Yeah, mine are just thinking about it. But with that comes severe headaches the day after, and to the point where you'll throw up with them. And I absolutely did.
Does that still happen?
No, unless I get really, really stressed out.
Is that going to be a problem partying with you?
Yeah. I'm not a partier, so you don't have to worry about that. But I can't remember exactly what happened. I was sitting up for a long time. I went and I laid back down, and I got the worst headache I've ever had. And with the surgery came headaches and everything, but this was a headache like any other, unlike any other. And then I had a Band-Aid on my back over where they put the needle in, but I thought this thing was a monster Band-Aid. I felt like it spanned the entire back. And I was telling my mom, I'm like, it's pulling on my back. Cause I can't see my back. Obviously no human can. And so I'm like, it's pulling on my back, and I can't even feel it cause it was in the middle of my back. And she's like, it's just a small little Band-Aid, Dawson. What's your problem? Quit being a baby. And I'm like, no, it's huge. It's so big back there. It hurts. And she pulls it off and shows it to me, and it's just a little finger Band-Aid. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous.
Oh, you're kind of reminding me of what I'm flashing to in my head is you see the viral YouTube videos of after the kids have been woken up from having like their molars taken out and they've been gassed, and they're like and the mom videotapes them saying dumb things because they're still kind of high.
There's some dumb things said after when I was coming to in the ICU. I'm sure I vaguely remember in and out saying some pretty dumb stuff. So I was kind of hoping she would record it for me so I could watch it and laugh at myself later, but she didn't, and it's all right because I'm sure there was things said that shouldn't be repeated. Fair
enough. So did you have to do chemo or anything like that?
So I did 31 treatments of radiation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Lose your hair and everything?
Yep. That's why it's so long now. It's kind of a trophy for me. I've never had my hair this long in my entire life. I don't like long hair. It irritates the hell out of me, but it came back super curly after the radiation, and I just kept it because it's a trophy for me.
Well, I had an idea as we're talking about this. If you ever have to go through that again and lose your hair again, you need to go to your hero, Shannon Campbell, and see if Shannon will donate his locks.
For sure.
Because if you've seen his hair this week, his hair is out of control.
So he had curly hair at Nationals, and I had a feeling I should go up to him and say, hey, are you trying to challenge me for the best curls in ULTRA4? What the hell, man?
What'd he say?
I didn't go up to him. I was too nervous about talking to him about that. I don't know
Shannon
why.
is so approachable. Oh, he's probably the nicest. He's probably the nicest guy in ULTRA4, and like many of us have talking about Shannon and bringing Shannon up. Shannon really set the standard by which competition in ULTRA4 exists. Like that, it is a still friendly competition. I'd rather beat you on the trail. I'll beat you on the course than me hiding stuff from you. He's an open book, and I think Jason Shearer and I talked about this a few weeks ago. It's that guy set the standard by which we all still live by today. Now, I was with him last night in his pit last night. They were doing some work, and he was angry and throwing things. But I mean, that's to be sad as the night before UTV race.
For
and
sure. Yep.
he and I don't know how he and Jason Berger did today, but I mean, when we're talking about really good co-drivers, Jason Berger, winning his co-driver in ULTRA4 history. So Chris, somebody, your co-driver has some competition.
Yeah, yep.
So he set the bar pretty high. Well, what's your next goals?
To win King of the Hammers. I have timed out in the same spot 10 minutes out of time 2 years in a row, and I want to get that monkey off my back. That's where Chris comes in. I'm hoping he can get me through because he has incredible skill when it comes to making notes and keeping me calm. I mean, even out just pre-running, it's incredible. And his just way of being is awesome. So,
well, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great segue to talk about the competition out there, that new guys are actually somewhat handicapped racing at the Hammers versus a guy that's been racing out here since 2006.
Yeah.
Since 2007 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 or 12. The guys that have been here, the trails are the same. Now, parts of them move and shift because of Mother Nature, but you know where they are, you know what you could do and what you can get away with, you know what's over that rise. So, yeah, there's some tribal knowledge that these guys have. Their advantage. It used to be Randy Slauson was highly advantaged in 4400 at King of the Hammers because he lived here. I mean, he was out here every weekend on a dirt bike or in any of number of rock crawlers that he built well before the Bomber became his signature vehicle. But he knew it. He knew it. And so he knew everything like the back of his hand. So he had that tribal knowledge that gave him such a wicked advantage. It's hard to get that without years and years of being here. I think you made a smart call by enlisting a co-driver that has a lot of that tribal knowledge and a lot of the course kind of already in tap in his head.
Yeah. So, I'm super excited to start the race and see what we can do.
Okay. I have one last story, question, whatever it is that I'm very curious about. It's actually a little creepy to me, but I got to I got to get to the bottom of it. There is this doll in the driver's side seat
Pearson.
of Pearson. He has a name.
Yep. So
and it's a he, I'm assuming, based on Pearson. Okay.
Yep. So Lindsay Fisher with ULTRA4. I could be wrong on this. I'm pretty sure this is correct though. At Stampede this last year, somehow she goofed on my name on the timing sheets and put me down as Pearson. Pearson.
Okay.
Kind of the same spelling, a couple extra letters, but so the announcers and everything were calling out Dawson Allington during the race, and all my friends and family watching were like, "Who's this Pearson? What's going on?" And so I had no idea. And then I was watching the main 4400 race, and everybody was calling me Pearson. I'm like, "What is happening right now?" And my mom finally told me, because she was out there taking pictures. She's like, "The announcers were calling you Pearson the whole time." I'm like, well, where did that come from? And so it's kind of funny. It's still on ULTRA4's recap of Stampede 2019. And so you can go watch it. And at the end of it, it's shows who got podiums. And I got third place, and it says Dawson Allington, third place. And it's kind of funny. It shows a picture or a little clip of the Jeep. And so my mom just ran with it. She's like, you know what? We're just going to go with this. And on the drive home,
it's a good joke.
She came up with a Bitmoji that was Pearson. Made him look the same as me, blue eyes, no hair, beanie on, because I was wearing, because of the surgery and the cancer and everything, I had no hair, so I was cold constantly. Right. I lost 40 pounds overnight just from the surgery, and then I was 180. I got down to 118 through radiation treatment. Still not anywhere close to my target weight. I'm only at 140 on my good days, so...
You're fighting your way back up.
Yep, and that comes from my dad's my dad's side of the family's metabolism. We just have an incredibly high metabolism. We can't gain weight for nothing. So, but anyway, she came up with the Bitmoji, and then in September of last year, she got in contact with this lady on Etsy, and she made dolls and challenged her to make a 48-inch doll, and that's Pearson. I got him 3 weeks ago, and she recorded me opening him up and everything, and it was kind of funny. My dog actually thought it was a toy for him and started chewing on him. And she's like, "No, that's kind of an expensive doll. You're not going to chew him apart."
That is funny. So there is a funny story behind this this doll over here. Pearson, he's like an alter ego.
Yeah. He gets to do the things that I can't. So he gets to
Is he a better driver than you?
That's debatable.
Is he a better co-driver than Chris Rea?
I don't know.
Debatable too. We'll know more after Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, man. Dawson, I lied. I had one more question for you.
Okay.
I didn't. I have another.
All right.
Quilting? Is this a real thing, or are you trying to?
Okay.
Are you trying to pump me?
All right. Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought this up.
That you've discovered quilting, and I'm like, no way, this kid's real.
I'm glad you brought this up. So I have a quilt that is a king-size quilt. I built it in 3 days when I was 14. It's made out of Levi's. I cut the Levi's into 4x4 squares, sewn them together with my mom's sewing machine and everything in 3 days. Quilted it and everything. My family helped me quilt it. It's a tied quilt. And so going through what I went through, I always wanted a blanket because I was always cold. I still am to this day. My mom made me, growing up, she made us, we called them trailer blankets because we had a bumper pull Aljo that had bunks on it, and she made them exactly the same dimensions as the bunks.
As the bunk, yeah.
Yep. And so we always had them, but
it's genius.
I destroyed mine. It has holes everywhere. I used the heck out of it. And so I came up with this idea that, you know what, I, as a race owner, driver, whatever you want to call me, I have leftover shirts from previous years. Like we put our, 2018 whatever on it. And
plus event shirts.
Event shirts, exactly. And so, and then
sponsor shirts
and everything. So this one that we made is actually made out of Curry Enterprises sponsor shirts and some of our shirts.
And I see this, Ray Curry set you guys up.
Yeah. He came on board and helped out a lot, which I can't thank him enough. He's
such a great individual, such a good human.
Yeah. And so with the trailer blanket, I had outgrown it, and so I couldn't get it to my neck without uncovering my feet, and then my feet would get cold.
Because how tall are you? You're pretty tall.
I'm 6'1", 6'2" on a good day. And so I challenged my mom. I said, Mom, I need a longer blanket. And so she made me a longer blanket, tied it and everything. I think she did it in like 24 hours. It was insane. And so she actually sewed all this together. I asked her to do this for me while I was getting the race car ready.
This is it, the Baby Jeep Racing.
Yep.
Out of T-shirts blanket.
Yeah, we didn't want to tie it because tying is time-consuming and kills your thumbs. If you've ever tied a quilt, you'd know. But I went and bought a sewing machine so it could do a special stitch just for this blanket.
So you know how to sew?
I do, yep.
That is a cool skill.
Yep, my mom taught me. She actually owned a pajama company. She made different types of pajamas. She called it bed bugs, I believe. And yeah,
I am impressed.
So
I think at least in my part of the world, it seems like a lost or dying art.
Yeah.
Throw this back to your mom, who's behind the scenes, or your dad. Okay, so I really did believe. I thought you were trying to punk me. Like I was like, "What's this kid talking about?" Liking quilting, and no, you were dead serious.
Yeah, I actually thoroughly enjoy sewing. I like doing anything that you make from scratch, and so I mean, fabricating and stuff. I love building stuff. I actually built the light bar mounts the light pod mounts on the race car. I've done a lot of the different modifications to this race car. I like to build things out of scratch and challenge myself to do things that aren't the norm. And quilting
you said it right there. Challenge yourself with things that aren't the norm.
Yep.
And as long as you keep challenging yourself, there's no end.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how this podcast started. It was just a personal challenge.
Yeah. Yep.
Who knew 6 months later we'd be sitting in Lasertown the night before some crazy storm.
Yeah.
You and I sitting here talking, and that whole challenging yourself would lead to us crossing paths. Dawson, thank you for coming out. I'm very glad to have met you. Very glad
I'm glad to be sitting here with you.
Glad to hear your story.
Yep.
And hopefully everyone else who hears your story is also challenged to
just don't give up. I mean, no matter what happens. I mean, I'm not going to say that I've gone through the worst of it, but I mean, it's been the worst of it for me. And I've been challenged to the end, and I'm still here.
Well, you know how to overcome adversity, and that's really the thing that impresses me. And I hope you overcome all adversity in your race this week in the 4,600 class. I want to see you on the podium again, and I want to see you, in the national points race again this year.
Yeah, I'd love to be there. So
good luck. Thank you for coming on, Dawson.
Thank
awesome
you, Wyatt.
to meet you. Like I said, everyone who said I needed to interview, they were all right. All right, we're out.